All right, welcome everybody. So we're going to get started just in a nice comfortable position to kind of do our centering grounding. And I'm going to do constructive rest pose. So that's laying on the ground with the knees bent and the feet on the floor. And that's a nice comfortable place for many of us to just kind of release tension in the belly and in the core. Nice and simple. But if something else works better for you, feel free to take, child's pose or seated or whatever. Is a place where you feel like you can breathe easily and kind of relax a little bit. And you could have your hands out to the sides or on your belly if you're in constructive rest, just again, wherever works for you. Feet a bit wider than the hips so the knees can fall together. And the idea there is just that you're not needing any tension in your legs. They can completely relax. Starting to tap into your breath, you might sort of automatically come to a couple of sighs, which is great. You could also do some little wiggles or fidgets just to kind of find that comfortable spot, and finding that specifically my head and neck wants a little bit of movement just to find that nice comfortable place. I'm just kind of sinking into the earth, sinking into this moment, taking a little bit of quiet to allow your mind to babble, which mine sometimes needs to before I can kind of focus. And just sort of gently guiding your awareness into your body, into the moment, into your breath, just taking your time. And as things begin to quiet down, maybe starting to acknowledge the earth and the land that you're on. Checking in with your relationship with that land, which can include so many different things. Today, maybe it's raining, maybe it's hot. Just noticing how you're in relationship with what's happening in the natural world around you. And also whatever is happening for you kind of in your life, in your community, in your body. And I'll just encourage you to take a moment to ask your body if there's anything that it would like you to know today, anything that it wants to communicate to your mind. And just taking a moment to listen. And if you did get an answer there, which you may or may not have, perhaps that plays a part in your intention in your practice today. And as always, our sort of overarching intention is to feel good. That's what we're here for. Maybe just remembering that. And when you feel ready, we can start to gently bring in some movement here. So I've just got my arms open to the sides, and I'm going to start to wash my knees from side to side. This can be done seated as well. So my feet are nice and wide as my mat, and I'm just taking this nice little windshield wiper twist. And you might find that it works for you to sort of move with your breath. You might be going a bit faster or slower, maybe pausing on each side. Just really allowing your body to talk to you about what feels good for you today in this moment. Could also be turning your head away from your knees. And then you could come through center, bring your feet together, and then take that same windshield wiper just with the feet together. So you're taking just a little bit of a different experience of a twist. So the knees stay roughly together. You don't have to worry too much about that. But it basically means that, as you turn to the left, your right foot is going to come off the floor. So the feet stay together roughly. You can turn your head away from your knees here as well. And again, just as fast or as slow as works for you. No particular pace you need to take here. Beautiful. And then we'll come through center. And then shift your hips a little to the right, pick up your knees and take them over to the left. So we're taking another form of a twist, but we're going to hold this one a little bit longer. So you've got your knees together. You could put a prop between them if your lower back is feeling not so sure about this. You do want to make sure you have that little inward curve in your lower back. Your shoulders nice and heavy, and you can turn your gaze away from your knees. And breathe into your belly as long as that feels safe and comfortable. This twist really, it's not too intense, but if it's feeling intense for you, if it's not feeling comfortable, with pregnancy kind of depends on, where you're at in your pregnancy. You're more than welcome to move your knees down a bit if it feels like a little too much right here. And then we'll come through center. So just take a moment to gently engage the core. I usually like to bring in my top leg first, then my bottom one. Feet to the floor, hips shift to the left, pick up your knees and drop them to the right. So again, kind of aiming for knees in line with the hips so that your thighs and torso are making kind of a 90-degree shape. But again, that doesn't work for everybody, including with pregnancy. It might not feel so good. You can have a prop between the knees. You can certainly move the knees down away from your face if it's feeling like this is just a little too much. And I should mention for the shoulders as well, any tingling, pinching, you just put your hand on your rib. Otherwise, just letting the shoulder relax. You can turn your head away from the knees. And when you're ready, gently engaging the belly, you can bring in your top knee first and then your bottom one. And then let's hug the knees into the chest and rock a little bit from side to side, which is nice for just evening out the spine after all those twists. Twists can be lovely for the lower back, the entire spine, the digestion. They have so many benefits. I go through phases where I don't like twisting. But lately I've been really craving twists. It just kind of depends on what's happening. You can take this into happy baby if you like. Soles of the feet up to the sky, knees nice and wide, and that's just adding your inner thighs into the mix. And you can continue to rock from side to side if that feels nice on your back. Awesome. And then we'll release the legs. Let's send them up to the sky. Hands can go up too. And just give everything a nice gentle little shake. Just kind of letting the energy and the blood kind of move down the legs. Softening the little joints and the toes and fingers, the wrists and ankles. Something so therapeutic about that. And then feet to the floor, just knees right over top of the heels. Let's do a little bit of work into the core. Let's start gentle with some pelvic tilts. So we'll inhale, tilting the pelvis forward, relaxing the belly, and as you exhale, engage your pelvic floor and scoop your belly button up to your spine as you flatten your back to the ground. Okay, and then inhale, tilting the pelvis forward. And exhale, initiating from the pelvic floor, gathering the transverse in, and you want to feel this kind of scooping action of your belly button towards your heart as you flatten your back to the ground. So we'll just take a few more of those. Hands can really be anywhere that's comfortable for the tilts. And I'd love for you to just notice if the two sides feel even. So you can maybe slow down a little bit. I'm just noticing for me, there's a bit of asymmetry because my spine is a little out of alignment right now. And these pelvic tilts are a really nice way to just realign, to soothe the lower back. They're really nice for the hips as well. And they're a nice little hello, good morning to the core. Okay, and you might be finding that this is going to be your core today. You might feel like, okay, this is working for me. It's feeling pretty good. This is about as much as I need, and that's great. Otherwise, we'll add on a bit. So just coming to a nice neutral spine, take an inhale to relax, and then exhale, engage those muscles, pelvic floor and transverse, scooping in and up, but keep your back neutral, okay? Though some of you may want to interlace your fingers behind the back of the head and just lift your shoulder blades lightly up off the mat, okay? We'll just do our simple marching to start, one of my favorites. Inhaling to lift the right leg and exhaling to put it down. Inhaling to lift the left and exhaling to put it back down. I love this one because it's pretty accessible. Like most people can do this one, including pregnant people, depending on how it's feeling. But I find it really effective. I find when I do this, you know, the work is really concentrating on continuing to scoop that belly in and up. And I really do find that this works for me. I do feel the work here, though I could be doing sort of a bigger, more dramatic movement. And that's what I love about these therapeutic forms of core is that, you know, the smaller, subtler movements actually can be, in some cases, more effective for what we're trying to get to, which is strengthening the muscles that support the lower back and the organs that help to prevent and treat lower back pain. Try to keep your jaw and your neck soft. And if you're feeling like, okay, this is great, but I want to add on a little bit, you can straighten your legs up to the sky and then just lower one leg at a time. So that's going to be, it's a little more psoas focused. Certainly still going to be working into the entire core. And you can modify this one too, in that the lower down your leg goes, the more weight your core is, of course, having to lift back up. So you can kind of find that place that feels like where you're getting the work. And again, for me, the thing that I'm most interested in is, can we keep those muscles drawing in and up? Not so much what shape are you doing or how big or how low. That doesn't really matter to me at all. It's more so that we're working on finding that scooping kind of action. So I like to work into the core just to a place of fatigue, okay? And for me, that changes day to day. So it's not that we're trying to do a specific number because there's some magic number, but rather that we're just working to a place where we feel like, okay, those muscles have, you know, worked a little bit. They're a little bit tired. So I'm going to take, I think, one more each side, and I feel like that's probably good for me. You might be feeling like you want a couple more. You might be feeling like, oh my goodness, I was done 3 ago, and you can certainly rest. And, you know, just working with your body with what's right for you. There's no competition, right? And then when that feels complete for you, let's relax. I'm taking the soles of the feet together, knees open wide, arms open. And let's just take a few breaths to really consciously relax the belly. We don't need to hold that tension. Beautiful. Okay. Let's roll over to one side. I'm on my left side here. We're going to do just a little bit of our outer hip work. We won't do too much of it, just enough to keep it alive. So I'm playing at my side. Your head should be, in line with the rest of your spine. I'm supporting my head on my hand, but you could also have your arm long, or you could use a little pillow there. And the knees are not right in line with the hips, they're slightly down. Natural curve in the lower back, gentle engagement through the core. Float the top leg, this is my right leg here, off the ground so it's straight. Flex the foot and turn the toes a little bit down. So we're going to send the leg back and up, and then we're going to bring it down, forward, and up. So we're making a U shape with the leg. So we're just doing one exercise, so we're making it count. This one is like, oh, there's a lot going on here. You'll notice that the further forward you come, the more intense that feels. So again, think about, where is the place where my muscles are working a little bit? They're getting a little bit of activity, but I'm not stressing. Okay, I'm not clenching my jaw. It's tolerable, or even comfortable in that kind of slightly uncomfortable way, but it's not creating any stress. Okay, we're going to do one more full U shape. That's about 6, and I find for me that's like, yeah, 6 is great. That's plenty. Okay, and then relax, and you can take your soft fist and just gently pad out the muscles there that we're working so hard just then. Okay, and then let's roll over onto the other side. And I'm just going to flip over so I'm still facing forward. Same thing, just finding that nice alignment, a little bit of a curve in the lower back, knees just a bit down. Whew. And then we'll be done with this. So just a little bit here. Okay, extending that top leg, flex the foot, turn the toes a little down. So you want to think about sort of side and back of the hip, not the hip flexors. Doing about 6. Back and up, down, forward some degree, and up. And the further forward you go, the more weight your outer hip muscles have to lift. So just finding that spot again where it feels like, yep, okay, there's definitely some work there. I'm not feeling stressed. I'm not feeling frustrated. I'm feeling safe and comfortable. And then we're aiming for about 6, but if you're feeling like 3 was good, that was your spot, that's perfect. If you're feeling like you want to do 8, I won't stop you. And one of the things that we try to do is work with the needs, feelings, and intentions of the body. Sometimes the mind has other ideas, right? But part of what we're trying to do here is be with the body. Okay, I'm bad at counting and talking, but I'm pretty sure there's one more. Yeah, and then relax. You can pad out that outer hip. Nice work. Beautiful. Okay, so from here, I'd love for you to come to your belly. If coming to your belly isn't going to work for you, you can come to seated and do the movements with your arms, or you can do cat and cow instead, which we'll meet you there eventually. I want to do a few cobras today. So just take a moment to lay on your belly, and actually let's take a moment just to relax. And if it feels good, you could wobble your hips from side to side, which is also one of those things that's kind of therapeutic for the lower back and the hips. And it also is quite nice for the nervous system. There's something kind of soothing about rocking the hips for many of us. So just check that out. If it feels good for you, go for it. Just nice and gentle. And then relax, just come to stillness, take a nice deep breath. Okay, and then take your arms into roughly a cactus shape, so your elbows start in line with your shoulders. And if you're seated, you can work with the cactus arms, okay? Pressing the tops of the feet down, lifting up the kneecaps, and pressing your pubic bone into the mat. As you inhale, lifting your chest, just pressing gently into the hands. And as you exhale, lower down. If you want a little more, you can bring the hands a bit closer to your body. Okay, just lifting and lowering. This is also one of my favorite little movements to do when my lower back is bugging me. It's from forest yoga. And it's kind of this idea that we're kind of squeezing and releasing. So anything that's sort of stagnant in the lower back has a chance to release. And plus it feels good. Okay, and then next time you come up, you could stay. Nice strong lower body. I like to imagine the legs are kind of rooting into the mud. Pull the floor towards you a little bit to think of lengthening your belly and your neck. Shoulders down, elbows slightly hugging together. And then gently release and rest. You can take a cheek or your forehead or chin to the ground or your hands. And you can relax, allowing the heels to drop apart, or you could do that little bum wobble if you want. So we're going to do one more. And if you are seated, I'd love for you to just work with opening the chest and closing in cactus arms, okay? Cat and cow is a nice option too. It's just a little bit less shoulder focused. So if we're on the belly and you're okay there, strange cobra. I also love this one when my shoulders and upper back are feeling a bit funky, which they are right now. Pressing the tops of the feet down, pubic bone down, kneecaps lifted as before. We're up on fingertips, elbows are lifted. We rise the chest and then fold. And as many of you know, when we add the twist, it's just often quite delicious. So you can rise up, look left, maybe dip that right shoulder towards the earth and see how that feels for you. Coming up through center, you can look right and try dipping the left shoulder and see what that feels like. So the idea is that we're keeping the pelvis nice and steady, and we're moving the shoulders and the upper back. Okay, and let's do that one more time, each side if it's working for you. And then up through center, back down to your belly, rest if you've been seated, maybe just relaxing in the seat or taking child's pose, and we'll wobble the hips if you want to, if it feels good. And then let's meet in child's pose. So you can bring your toes together, take your knees as wide as you like them. I usually like them about armpits distance apart. Sometimes I like them right together, which is a little bit more of a stretch for the lower back. Sometimes I like them really wide, which gives a bit more space to the hips, the lower back, and the belly. Now you can just have your arms forward or maybe resting by the hips. I'm just taking some nice deep breaths into your back body. And then from here, let's add a little side bend. So you can look forward and walk your hands over to the right. I often like to do this just with my left fingertips on the ground. You can also plant the palm and take the right hand onto the left, so it gives like a little anchor. And then think of sort of sliding your bum to the left a little bit. So nice. And then we'll walk through center and over to the other side. Up on fingertips is nice, or planting the palm. And again, kind of sliding your bum off to the right a bit. Nice deep breaths. And then when you're ready, we'll come back through center. Come up to hands and knees, and let's take cat and cow. So you can do this on your palms with your fingers spread. Fists is great as well with your thumbs forward. And I'm actually a big fan of cat and cow on the elbows. If you want to just completely take the pressure off your wrists, feel free to do that, okay? Knees under the hips, toes can be tucked or not. And we just start by inhaling into a back bend and exhaling to curl, rounding the spine. And this is highly interpretable, okay? So I do encourage you to close your eyes and think not so much about the shape and what it looks like, but how does it feel for you? So maybe you find you want to rock forward and back, maybe you want to take circles, side to side motion, really allowing this to be exploratory. And again, the part of the work that we're doing here, I find, you know, in this culture, in this society, we spend so much time in our heads, and our yoga practice is a place where we get to really be in our bodies, to let our bodies have a say, to let our bodies lead. So if your body were deciding, you know, what kind of movements you're doing, what would that look like? It's more important that we ask the question than that we have the answer. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so from here, we'll just sort of slow down to center. And we'll take a little upper back chest release. So if you have a block, I do like this with a block, you don't have to. If you don't have a block, it's gonna look more like this, Anahatasana, okay? If you have the block, you're gonna take the block in between your hands, just like this. So you're holding the block between the palms on its longest height, and the elbows are down. Then you're gonna walk your knees back, and I like them wide, and I like the toes tucked under. I find it just gives me a little bit more support. And then you're just gonna gently drag your heart back until you feel a bit of an opening in the chest. Your chin or forehead may or may not come down, it doesn't matter. And if you've got that block, you're just gently pressing into it with your hands to help to release the upper back. The bum is kind of dragging back. And if you're in the Anahatasana with the fingertips on the mat, I find it's a little easier to rock from side to side from there. You can certainly try that. You may or may not want to do that with the elbows down. It's just a little bit harder. Beautiful. Let's gently come out of that. We can slide back into child's pose once again. And this time you might want to have your hands resting beside your hips, just allowing the shoulders to kind of drop down. And then we'll make our way into downward facing dog as you're ready. So you can reach the arms forward again. I like my pinky fingers just off the edges of the mat. Okay, tucking the toes, lifting the bum. And we're kind of working the weight into the legs. So there's lots of different ways to do this. You can do it as intuitively as you did cat and cow. So that could look like bending one knee at a time. It could look like swaying the hips from side to side. It could look like stillness or relative stillness. You want to have a slight bend to the elbows and hug them a little bit together. And think of kind of deepening your shoulders into their sockets. And we're using all of the knuckles on the ground so that it's not just the wrists that are getting the work here. This could be done on the elbows too. That's a variation called dolphin dog. Okay, and I'm going to take a variation that I really like that I think of as downward facing elephant. Okay, so I'm going to take my feet as wide as my mat, bend the knees a little, and then I'm sort of pressing all of my weight, focusing all of my weight towards my right foot, so to the right and to the back. So I get this little bit of a release along the side of my spine. And then through center, and then pouring the weight into the left foot, so to the left and back. So the right side of the spine kind of softens, and the left side stretches a little. So good. Back through center. Okay, option one, you can extend your right leg up to the sky from downward dog. Option two, you can bring your knees down and extend your right leg from there. And then if you've got your leg extended from downward dog, you can step it forward sort of towards your right hand. If you're on your knees, you could do that, or you could stand up on your knees and simply step forward. So we're coming into a low lunge. You could do this as a high lunge as well if you'd rather not have your knee down on the mat. I'm going to tuck my back toes under. You could certainly pad them, maybe double folding your mat. And then think of drawing the tailbone down, squaring the hips forward, and just gently pressing the hips towards the front heel. Take your right hand onto your thigh, left arm up to the sky, and just think of kind of drawing the left ribs back and a little bit up. And you can add a bit of a side stretch as well if that feels good. Right hand just gently pressing down and forward on the thigh. Okay, come up through center, allow the left hand to come down kind of wide, like off your mat. Fingertips or palm is fine. And reach your right arm open to the sky. So you're taking a little bit of a twist. Hug your shoulders onto your back and open your chest. Sometimes I like this one with the back knee lifted, sometimes I don't. Either is fine. And then gently bring your hands down to the inside of your front leg and allow your back knee to lower. You can widen your right foot out to the right a little bit and turn the toes slightly off on an angle. So you might find that you need to lengthen your stance a little bit. I'd love for your hips to come forward, but your front knee to stay over the ankle so it's not going past. You can untuck your back toes with me if you'd like, but press the top of the foot into the mat. I've also got my hands up on my blocks that may or may not be helpful for you. Okay, and then pressing into blocks or fingertips, pull the shoulders down the back and lengthen your heart forward. So that's a little bit of a release into the psoas, the front of the thigh of the back leg. Nice deep breaths here. Okay, you can stay here or you can come down a little bit lower. So that could look like elbows on blocks. It could look like bending your knees slightly. You can also add a little bit of an opening into the hip by lifting up your toes and beginning to roll onto the outer arch of your foot. But you want to keep your ankle nice and steady. So take a quick look at it and make sure the ankle's not wrinkled. Okay, we want it nice and flat so that you're opening from your hip, not your knee. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, come back up to your hands. If you're down, gently gather your knee back in towards the midline and heel toe your foot in until your heel is roughly in line with your hip, and then you can go ahead and straighten the leg, coming into a pose called Ardha Hanumanasana half split. Back hip is just right over top of the knee, and my back toes are still untucked here. Flex your front foot, lengthen your heart forward. You could stay there or fold. You could stay there or flow. As many of you know, I usually like to flow. So that just means as you inhale, the heart rises. And as you exhale, you're just deepening in a little bit. I find that's nice for the nervous system, and it's also nice for the muscles. Because sometimes when they're extra tight, just coming in and out gently, it's sort of soothing for the muscles and it allows them to release a little bit more. But some days I find I'm really, stillness is what feels right, and that has benefits as well. You know, your muscles, your body might already be in that place, so you can kind of enjoy the stillness. So nice. Good. Okay, let's look forward. On your exhale, we'll just slide the knee back so that we're on the knees again. And then let's take Anahatasana together. So don't worry about the block. Knees might widen a little bit. Up on fingertips, melting the heart down and back. You can stay here or come to your belly and take your favorite variation of Cobra. Okay, if you don't have a favorite, take Strange Cobra with me. So fingertips wide, tops of the feet pressed down, gently lifting the chest. And then fold down and make your way back into either child's pose, or you could return to downward dog. And you might just be noticing how this child's pose or downward dog might feel a little bit different. Having done that sequence on one side, we're about to do it on the other side. Okay, so we'll take the left leg back and up, and you can do that from downward dog, or you can do it from your hands and your knees. So ideally sort of the same as you did on the first side. And then you can bring your foot forward. If you're on your knees, it might be nice to stand on the knees and then step the foot forward. Yeah, good. So we're starting in a low lunge. So tuck those back toes under if your knee will tolerate it. Feel free to pad your knee. And we want to draw the tailbone down, but kind of work the hips a little ahead of the back knee. Okay, front knee should still be over the ankle. You can press the left hand into the thigh gently and reach the right arm up. And there's this kind of drawing in and up along the right side, which you might find is kind of conducive to a little bit of a side bend. And I find that this really lengthens the whole sort of front of the right side, the thigh, the psoas, the belly, even into the shoulder and neck a little bit. Inhale, and then we'll bring the right hand down nice and wide. Fingertips or palm is fine. Left arm opens, and I'm kind of working my hips even more forward here as I'm coming into this little bit of a twist. Lifting up out of your bottom shoulder, both shoulders rolled back. And if you'd like to try lifting up the back knee, feel free. It just has a little bit of a different feeling. It's not better or worse, it's just a little bit different. And again, if your body were in charge, right? What would your body want to do? And then we'll gently release the hands to the inside of the front leg. You can walk your foot out a little bit more to the long edge of your mat. And I've got my hands on blocks. So we're untucking the back toes. And then I'm bringing the hips quite a bit forward. So I just want to make sure my knee stays over my ankle. So you could lengthen your stance as you need to there. Okay. If your back foot is untucked with me, just press it down as if you could lift the kneecap from there. Okay, think of hips forward and chest long. Shoulders down the back. Another psoas release. We can stay here, or we can start to move down, which is going to bring the stretch a little bit more into the hip of the front leg. And I find naturally my knee often wants to wing out here. So I can turn the toes off just slightly to the left. The toes are lifted and I'm winging the knee open. So the ankle is still really steady. I'm not sickling the ankle. I'm actually opening from the hip, right? Try to keep your shoulders down your back. It can help to keep your right glute engaged. Your back knee could be lifted here as well. I find it's a little too much for me to manage the deep hip opening with the back knee lifted, but for some people it does work. Nice deep breaths. Beautiful. And then we'll gently come back up to the hands if you're down. Ease up on the hips. Bring the foot back in towards the midline. So just roughly in line with your hip, and then straighten that leg. Draw the left hip back a little bit, flex the foot. You can have a bend in the knee for sure. You can lift your heart forward and up. That's a beautiful hamstring stretch. You can stay here. You can see what it feels like to fold down, just a bit of a different quality. And again, maybe you're in a flowing mood, which I almost always am. Not always, but 90% of the time I like to flow. Nice deep breaths, whether you're in movement or stillness. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, we'll look forward and just gently slide that front foot back so we're on our knees. Okay. And then you can take downward dog or child's pose just for a couple of breaths to notice the difference. And if you'd like to add in something like a vinyasa here, you're welcome to. So that could look like cat and cow. It could look like coming through plank, lowering down, taking your little back bend. Any of those back bends would work here. And then returning to downward dog. And then coming to a seat. So just sitting on your heels is great. If that's not going to work for you, you can sit on your bum. You could also take one of your blocks if you have one and just sit with it between your ankles. But the focus isn't the lower body right here. We're going to do a bit of wrists and neck. So I'm just going to turn to face you actually. Okay, so take your hands and spread them nice and wide beside your shoulders. And then as you exhale, turn the knuckles down like you're making a little paw and stretch out the backs of the wrists. Inhale, spread the fingers open. And exhale, curling under, stretching the back of the wrist. Keep your shoulders relaxed, your chin slightly lifted so that your jaw can be relaxed. This is probably my favorite wrist exercise because it's a release, but it's also strengthening, especially when you open up the fingers and activate all those muscles. So it's really good therapy for if you have problematic wrists. Good one to do every day. I don't do it every day, but I like it a lot. Anytime my wrists are sore, I do it. Let's take one more. And then just hold that little stretch position. Again, relax the shoulders. And then release. You can circle if you like. I also like a flick of the nails along the palm. Something about that is so helpful for releasing tension in the wrists. And then let's reach the arms wide and up to the sky. And then just back and open down to the earth. 2 more times, reaching wide and open. Wide and down. One more. We're massaging the breath through. Beautiful. Okay, let's take the arms open, palms up. And then take eagle arm, so right arm under the left, I'll mirror you. And then wrap the hands if you can, or hold opposite shoulders. Draw the shoulders lightly down, chin slightly tucks in, and you can lift the elbows up a little bit if the arms are kind of twisted. And then you can bring your right ear over towards your right shoulder, just softening. Through center and then over to the other shoulder, left ear to left shoulder. Gently through center, let's softly unwind. Allow the hands to just rest on the lap for a moment. You can hug the shoulders back or maybe circle them. And then opening the arms up once again, we'll take the second side. Left arm goes under the right, holding shoulders, kind of giving yourself a hug or twist tie the arms if you can. Shoulders down, chin slightly tucked in, elbows may lift a little bit. Left ear to left shoulder. Just soft. Up through center and over to the other side. I'm taking about 3 deep breaths on each side. Again, you could do more or less. Okay, up through center. When you're ready, you gently unwind. Allow the hands to rest on your lap. And you might just rest. You might want to roll your shoulders a little bit. And then link the arms around behind you. You could do that by hooking thumbs, interlacing fingers, or grabbing a prop like a strap. Hug the elbows together and just gently press the fist down, allowing your chest to open. The fists may stretch away from your body, they may not. Think wide collarbones, buoyant heart. And again, just soften, hands can return to the lap. Beautiful. Let's release onto our bums. And you can extend your legs and just give them a nice little wobble or a little shake. Yeah, so I'd like to do a couple of forward bends here. So I recommend sitting up on something, a low prop like this usually works well. Even just folding your mat a couple times or using a towel or something like that would work. Okay, we'll start by extending the legs and then take your right ankle across your left thigh. That might be enough. Okay, you might want to just kind of hang out there, or you could bend your left leg until you start to feel a bit of a stretch in the outer hip. Fingertips behind you, pressing your heart gently towards the shin, calf. I love this one. It's called cobbler's pose. You can rock a little bit from side to side. You have a lot of control in this particular shape, and I find it feels really good. But I know some of you like double pigeon. So if you like double pigeon, you can walk your left foot to the right until the shins stack, and then you can fold forward over that. I find this is one of those things where it really depends on how your hips fit into their sockets. For some people, this is easy peasy. For others, it's like totally impossible. So again, just listening to your body, go to the place where you feel like you're getting this stretch that feels right for you. Wherever you are, keep your feet active and your spine long. When you're ready to come up, if you're folded, just gently rolling up. Return to that cobbler position so that you can release your left leg. Everybody release your legs, and you can give them again a nice little shake. Let's try that on the second side. The two sides might be quite different. So taking your left ankle to right thigh, maybe staying there, the foot flexed, or bending the right leg, fingertips behind you, pressing your heart to the shin. And I recommend just pausing here for a moment, even if you know you're going to come into double pigeon. Just give it a moment because it does help to open up the muscles that will allow us to go into double pigeon. And plus, it just feels really good. Check this out. See if it works for you. You can rock if you want. And then if on this side it's still feeling good, you want to try that double pigeon, you can walk your right foot to the left until your shins stack. Sometimes this is called box pose because it's like a box. There shouldn't be any pain in your knees wherever you are. You can lengthen your heart and fold. Lately, some days this one is really inaccessible. Today, I have some space. Again, keeping the feet active, the spine long, the breath conscious. And then rolling up when you're ready. Returning to that cobbler shape so that you can come out if you're in the double pigeon. Gently straightening out the right leg. Release the legs, everybody, and give them a nice shake. And I'd like to take Paschimottanasana. Not necessarily the most popular pose. It's one that I've always loved. It can be really nice for the nervous system, but as always, it depends on what our bodies are doing that day. So feet can be together. I'm going to do hips distance. They could be wider. You could even do a V shape if that works better for you today. I'm still sitting up on that little bit of support, and it's totally okay to bend your knees or even have a bolster underneath your knees. If you find that this is really hard on the knees and the back, a little support underneath the knees can make all the difference in the world. I'm kind of sitting on the edge of my block to help tilt my pelvis forward a little bit. Fingertips or palms beside you, rolling the shoulders back, lift your heart. And for some of you, the pose might be this with just the chin down, just getting that nice little bit of a lengthening in the fascia along the sides of the spine, okay? Otherwise, you can lengthen, tilt forward from your heart and fold right over your legs. So Paschimottanasana means intense Western facing stretch, the Western side of the body being the back line. So this isn't just about the hamstrings, we're also lengthening the back of the neck, the Achilles heel, sort of the entire back line of the body. So we want to be gentle with it. We're not trying to pull anything or yank anything, just really gently noticing here. And if it does feel a little bit not so great on your lower back, just come up a little bit more to sort of a neutral position and or bend your knees a bit more. If it feels safe to allow your head to relax, you can, but keep thinking of heart to toes rather than head to knees. Nice deep breaths. And again, for some people, like 10 seconds in this pose is enough. Others want to stay for 5 minutes. So just noticing what works for you. When and if you feel ready to come out, just gently rolling up. And we're going to make our way into Shavasana from here. There's no rush. So the way that I like to do that is I just shift off my block, I bend my knees, and I roll my long back to the ground. Some people prefer a little bit of a counter pose. That could be pelvic tilts, it could be reverse tabletop. Maybe there's something that you need in particular, like a bridge or something. You could do that too, or you could just lay on your back and let Shavasana do the counter posing. So releasing your legs, releasing your arms. Maybe you have props that you want to add. And again, there's no rush for that. So just when you're ready, coming into that shape. There's nothing that you really need to do once you get there. Maybe take a deep breath. Just receive. So taking a moment to notice if this is feeling good for you and you'd like to stay, which is welcome. And if you're feeling like your practice is complete for you, you can begin to deepen your breath, wiggle your fingers and toes. You can stretch your arms up. Draw your knees in and roll to one side. And then gently making your way up to a seat. And I've been really enjoying Lotus Mudra lately, which has the thumbs and pinkies together, heels of the hands together, the hands kind of open in a cup. So if that feels right for you, if you'd like to try that, please feel welcome to. It's a gesture of both surrendering and also receiving. So gently bowing your mind, your hands, your heart, your body, your breath, honoring and acknowledging whatever it took for you to get here to your practice. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us. Honoring and acknowledging the sacredness of the land that we practice on. Thank you for sharing your practice with me.